So the housing market is changing fast, and a lot of sellers out there right now are dying to sell their homes. Check this out. Home builders are aggressively slashing prices on new homes. Home sellers are waking up to reality and are slashing prices. But here's the catch. Even though home builders and sellers are now waking up to reality, home prices are still sitting at elevated levels, but at least now we're finally starting to see some cracks form in the system, and opportunities now exist that didn't exist about a year or two ago, especially here in Las Vegas. And coming up, I'm going to show you a few shocking examples of what's going on here in Las Vegas and how much the overall real estate market is now changing. What's going on, my YouTube friends? Jerry Abbott here, your go-to Las Vegas realtor. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and like the video if you want to stay up to date on all of the latest developments regarding the Las Vegas and US housing market. And if you are thinking about relocating to beautiful Las Vegas, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent here. I've lived here for 20 years. I know every inch of this city. When that time is right for you, definitely reach out to me. Just call, text, or email me anytime, and I'll help you find that perfect dream home. Let's dive into the video. So the cracks are definitely starting to form in the housing market. You can see right next to me that foreclosures are now up 20% as many homeowners struggle to make payments. And you can also see that more than half of the homes in the US have now dropped in value in just the last year. So we can see that the market is definitely losing momentum, but we also need to keep things in perspective. And I want to show you what I mean by that coming up. All right, so just to keep things in perspective, even though the overall housing market is cooling down, I want you to take a look at this graphic, just showing the top 11 states in the country and what the median home price is, just to show you how astronomical these numbers have grown to. So let's just start right at the very top there. You can see in the yellow highlight, Washington, D.C., $1.23 million is the median home price. Underneath that is Hawaii, right at about $1 million, then California at $865, then Massachusetts at $659. But if we go to the bottom of the list, you can see New York is $567,000. Now, just to give you some perspective, before the pandemic around 2020, about 5 years ago, these home price median averages were about 50% less than they currently are right now. So now this is the second page of the next 11 states that have the most expensive median home price averages. And you can see right at the top in New Hampshire, the median home price average there is $532. If we go a little bit further down the list, you can see right in the middle there, right in that yellow highlight in Nevada, we're creeping up now here where I'm located at just about $500,000. And then at the bottom in Florida, you can see it's $434,000. And that's just about the median average throughout the United States right now. So again, this is why we need to keep things in perspective, because even though the overall housing market is cooling off and we might see some kind of a correction, when we look at these astronomical median price points, especially in these more expensive states, it just goes to show you that even a correction likely will do very little in terms of the affordability issues that are plaguing millions of people, because these levels now are so much higher than they were from just a few years ago. Now, drilling down more specifically here in Las Vegas, this city is notorious for big shifts in overall home prices. And you can see right next to me that the market is cooling off. There's less sales, and now we're finally starting to see more price reductions from a lot more sellers here. And I want to show you a few shocking examples of that now coming up. All right, so now I'm on the popular real estate platform Zillow, and this week I want to show you 5 separate examples of Las Vegas homes for sale, starting in the luxury category and then working down closer to the median price point to show you the large price reductions that are happening. And again, these are just a few of the examples that you're about to see of many examples like this happening throughout the Las Vegas Valley, where many sellers have overpriced their homes. They've now reduced them, some of them significantly, and they still have not sold. So let's take a look at this first luxury example. You can see at the bottom left of the screen, the current list price is $2,150,000, but right above that in that small red text, it says price cut $200,000. That happened just a couple of weeks ago. This is a 5-bedroom, 7-bath, 7,200 square foot home. But again, down below, let's take a look at the full price point history from the original price to this current price. All right, so take a look down at the bottom of the screen in that blue highlight. Down at the bottom left side of the highlight, the date says 2/9/2025. So we're going back almost 10 months ago when the sellers of this home listed the home for sale for $2,850,000. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but you can see the price reductions as I scroll up here a little bit, and you can see the current price right there in the middle of the screen, right in that yellow highlight where it says price change, $2,150,000. Now, I know the vast majority of people cannot afford a multi-million-dollar home like this, but I just wanted to kind of put things in perspective here. In 10 months, this home has dropped from $2,850,000 to $2,150,000. That is a $700,000 price reduction, and they still cannot find a buyer, which proves in any part of the market, whether it's the luxury category or an average price point home, if your home is not priced properly, it is going to sit on the market. And even then, after these significant price reductions, a lot of times it's going to continue to sit, especially now as we go into the winter time during the slower part of the real estate season. All right, so now let's take a look at this second example of another Las Vegas home for sale. Now we're coming down lower in price. You can see on the lower left side of the screen, the price of this home is currently $1,190,000. So this is right about the entry luxury category space here in Las Vegas. But just above the price in that small red text, again, it says price cut $59,000 that happened just a couple of weeks ago. But again, that's not the full price reduction. This is a 7-bedroom, 5-bath, 5,500 square foot home. Now this home says it's fully remodeled, but it's not. I was in this home with a client of mine, and there are definitely some issues with this home, but yet they're still trying to get an exorbitant price for the actual condition of this property. And I want to show you the full details of what the original price point was compared to this list price right now. All right, so again, take a look down at the bottom of the screen in the blue highlight. Down at the bottom left side of the highlight, the date says 2/23/2024, so a little bit less than 2 years ago. This home was sold for $725,000. Now take a look at the date on the left side in that other yellow highlight just above it. It says 7/28/2025, so about 18 months later, after they did some remodeling to it, because this is definitely what I call an investor special. The investor buys it on the cheap, they put a little bit of remodeling work into it, and then they try to list it for a ridiculous price you can see for $1,450,000. That's a 100% price increase in 18 months, which is absolutely ridiculous in this market. They could not find a buyer. And as I scroll up here, you can see all of these price reductions until you can see right there, right at the top in the middle there, it says price change $1,190,000. So a couple of takeaways here. Number one, this home has not been reduced in price just by $59,000. This home has been reduced in price by over $250,000, and they still can't find a buyer. And one of the big reasons why is when an investor buys a home and they do some remodeling to it, and they didn't even do a full remodeling job to this home, so it's not 100% done. It just goes to show you when they're trying to make that kind of a profit, when there are no comparable homes in the area that are going for that kind of a price point, the home is going to sit on the market and it's going to go through a massive price reduction, just like this one is doing, and they still can't find a buyer because there's still a tremendous amount of sellers that continue to overprice homes. All right, so now let's take a look at this third example of another Las Vegas home for sale. Now we're coming down a little bit lower in price. You can see the current list price on the bottom left of the screen is $875,000. Again, right above that in the small red text, it says price cut of $75,000. That actually happened a couple of months ago, but again, that is not the full price reduction as you're about to see. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,500 square foot home. But again, let's take a look at the full price history down below to show you what the original price point was compared to this current reduced price. All right, so this one's a little bit of an odd example, but let's take a look at it anyway. Take a look again down at the bottom of the screen in the blue highlight. Down at the bottom left side there, the date says 10/15/2024, so a little bit more than a year ago. This home was sold for $890,000. But take a look at the date on the left side just above it in the other yellow highlight. It says 11/20/2024. So only about a month later after they purchased this home, they put it back on the market for some odd reason for $925,000. So they weren't trying to make a lot of money on it, but they were obviously trying to sell it very quickly, which again was not really the best thing for them to obviously do. They couldn't find a buyer. They removed the listing you could see just above it, and then they put it back on the market again for a little bit of a higher price point at a later date for $950,000, and they still couldn't find a buyer. And then you can see right there, right in the middle there where it says price change, $875,000 is now the current list price. So this is a perfect example of what not to do when buying and selling a home. This again is another example, just like the title of my video, where a seller is dying to sell their home because for whatever reason, nobody knows their financial circumstances. They bought the home a little bit more than a year ago. They quickly try to sell it a month later. They were not able to do it. They took it off the market. Then they put it back at a higher price point, which is ridiculous to do when the market is cooling down. They've reduced it again at a lower price point now than when they originally purchased the home. So ultimately, this seller is definitely going to take a loss on this home. And again, it's an advantage now for buyers who now have more leverage because you didn't see these things happen about a year or two ago, but now we're starting to see a lot of sellers getting desperate, and buyers now are able to take advantage of these situations that didn't exist a little while ago. So now let's take a look at this third example of what was a Las Vegas home for sale up until just a couple of weeks ago, because you can see at the top left of the screen next to that flashing red arrow, this home has closed. That means this home recently sold, and you can see the sold price at the bottom left of the screen was $725,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,500 square foot home. But again, I want to show you down below the full price history to show you the original list price compared to this closed price. Okay, so again, take a look down at the bottom of the screen in the blue highlight. Down at the bottom left side of the highlight, the date says 8/15/2025. So we're going back just about 4 months ago when this home was originally listed for sale for $945,000. But if we look right in the middle of the screen, right in that yellow highlight, you can see where it says sold $725,000. It took almost 2 months for that to happen, but that price reduction from $945 originally to $725 is over $200,000 on the price reduction for the home to finally sell. So let me give you a little bit of back history on this particular example. This homeowner bought the home about 9 years ago for just under $500,000. So when they just recently sold it for $725,000, they obviously made money on the home, but they tried to make a ridiculous amount of money on the home and try to originally list it for $945,000. And in 2 months, that's a pretty quick time period, they reduced the price $220,000 from $945 down to that current close price of $725. So again, a lot of homeowners were pricing their homes at ridiculous levels. And in order for them to sell, these homeowners now got a big reality check, and a lot of them have compromised on those prices and have accepted much lower prices, which is becoming more frequent now. All right, so now let's take a look at this next example of another Las Vegas home for sale. Now we're coming down lower in price. You can see on the lower left side of the screen, the current list price of this home is $525,000. Now, just above that in that small red text, it says price cut of $9,600 that happened just about a month and a half ago. But again, that is not the full price reduction as you're about to see. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, almost 2,300 square foot home. But again, let's take a look at the full price history down below. All right, one more time, take a look again down at the bottom of the screen in the blue highlight. Down at the bottom left side of the highlight, the date says 3/14/2023, so a little bit less than 3 years ago, this home was sold for exactly $500,000. Now, if you look just above it, they tried listing the home for $560,000 about 6 or so months ago. Earlier this year, they were not able to get it. And as I scroll up here, you can see all of these price changes. They actually had a pending sale, but for whatever reason, it didn't go through, and they kept reducing the price. And as I scroll up here, you can see right there at the top, right in the middle, in that yellow highlight, it says price change, $525,000. So 2 takeaways here. Number one, this home has not been reduced in price just by $9,000. When you look at the full price history, this home has been reduced in price $35,000 because the original list price was $560,000 and now it's down to $525,000. Now that's not a significant price reduction, but here's the thing. The reason why I wanted to show this to you is that, again, this is poor timing on this seller, because when you buy a home within 1, 2, or 3 years, especially after the massive appreciation that we've had in the last couple of years, and you try to sell it now in a cooling market in the winter time, that is likely going to hurt the seller. They would be lucky to get their original $500,000 on this home. So again, if you're a buyer, especially during the winter time, negotiate with these sellers, because many of them, especially listing during the winter time, are desperate to sell their homes, and buyers have more leverage now if you are thinking about buying. All right, so now let's take a look at this next example of another Las Vegas home for sale. Now we're coming way down in price. You can see the current list price on the lower left side of the screen for this particular home is $450,000. That's about $30,000 below the median price point here in Las Vegas. Now again, just above that in the small red text, it says price cut that happened just a couple of weeks ago of $40,000. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, almost 1,400 square foot home. But again, I want to show you the surprising price history down below just to show you where the original price point was just a couple of weeks ago compared to now. All right, so take a look down at the bottom of the screen in the blue highlight. Down at the bottom left side of the highlight, the date says 11/6/2025. So just about a month ago, this home actually was listed for sale. Even though it says price change, the listed for sale price was $490,000 that you can see on the right side of the highlight. But if you look at the date just above it in the yellow highlight over on the left side, it says 11/14/2025. So we're only talking about 8 days after they listed the home for sale at $490,000. You could see the current list price now at $450,000. Now here's the thing, even though this is only a $40,000 price reduction and it doesn't seem significant, it actually is. And let me tell you why. Because when this homeowner put the home on the market on November 6th for $490,000 and in just 8 days dropped the price by $40,000, that shows desperation by the seller. And when sellers are listing their homes coming into the holidays, you know they're definitely more desperate during this time of year to sell a home, because the best time to sell your home is in the springtime. So when you see sellers reducing the price and trying to sell their homes during the holidays, it gives the buyers now much more leverage to be able to buy homes at reduced prices, because this is the slower time of year. So if you're a buyer, definitely negotiate with a lot of these sellers, because many sellers are willing to compromise on their price now. So as you can see, the Las Vegas real estate market is clearly cooling down, especially with homeowners that are still pricing their homes at unrealistic levels. Now, there are still buyers out there, but the feeding frenzy is over, and a lot of buyers now are using a lot more caution as the market continues to rebalance itself. So before I close out today's video, I just want to give a shout out to my favorite comment from last week's video. Now, I actually have two that I'm going to put up on full screen, read it to you guys, and then come back on the other side and give you my thoughts. So the first comment at the top says, companies should not be able to buy single family homes. They can buy apartments and condos. People should not be able to own more than 5 single family homes at a time. And the bottom comment says, 50 years is just forever rent. So those two comments are referring to two very specific things that I brought up in last week's video. The first is that Wall Street corporations and investors continue to buy thousands of single family homes, which continues to contribute to this massive affordability crisis in the overall housing market. And the second thing I brought up was that Washington is now thinking about passing into law a 50-year mortgage option instead of a 30-year mortgage option, which basically means people are going to be paying forever if they had a 50-year mortgage. So I want to hear from you guys. I want you to drop me a comment down below. I read and respond to all of my comments. I want to know what you think is worse, a 50-year mortgage option or that Wall Street and corporations are still allowed to buy thousands of homes. I want to know why you think that, and my favorite comment from this week's video, I'm going to give a direct on-screen shout out to in next week's video. So the bottom line is that the overall housing market is now cooling off. Many sellers are reducing prices, and we're starting to see some cracks form. But even with these price reductions, home prices overall still remain very elevated, and affordability remains a very big challenge for the average buyer. That's why it's very important to stay informed, be strategic, be patient right now. And if you are thinking about buying a home, whether it's here in Las Vegas or anywhere in the country, definitely negotiate with these sellers, because a lot of sellers now are willing to compromise on their original sales price in this changing market. Now, if you're thinking about buying a home, especially here in the Las Vegas real estate market, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent here. I've lived here for 20 years. I know every inch of this city. When that time is right for you, definitely reach out to me. Just call, text, or email me anytime, and I hope you find that perfect dream home. I'll see you in the next video.